So Fred again said something on a podcast recently that I think everyone that makes music needs to hear.
I've spent so many thousands of hours wasted on plugins and getting into the weeds and these things. Like, I would just say choose. I've made it so that my Logic, I've just got this one menu that just has the 8 plugins I use. You'll forget about whether or not the chorus is wrong, or like whether or not the chord progression actually is not serving the feeling right. It just could not matter less. In terms of like your reverb, compressor, EQ, all these things, I would just say delete everything apart from just choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter what you choose, they're all great.
He's so right. I've been trying to say a similar thing for years now. So I want to show you the one type of plugin I would keep if I had to delete everything else, because knowing a multi-band compressor really well will help your mixes out a lot, and it replaces a ton of your other plugins that you actually just don't need. Now, you don't need this specific multi-band compressor. Any multi-band compressor will do, but I just want to show you how many different types of plugins this one plugin can do the job of. So let's say we have this vocal.
Caught up in your energy. It's the way you look at me.
So the G in energy is kind of harsh. So usually you might grab a de-esser to reduce that sibilance, but it's actually better with a multi-band compressor. So first of all, I can find the exact area where the G is.
Caught up in your energy.
So it's right around here, like 3,000 to like 8,000 hertz, somewhere in that range. But if we look at a typical de-esser, look at the control we have. Like, we can control around where in the frequency spectrum the band is. We can't control how wide the band is. We can only control the threshold and the range, and pretty much nothing else. But in a multi-band compressor, I can control the look-ahead time, so I can make sure that this plugin sees that G coming in advance. I can control the attack and release. I want a really quick attack and a really quick release, so it only clamps down on that specific sibilance. I can control the ratio. I want the ratio up all the way and the knee all the way hard, so we get that instant compression. And then I have just total control over what the band looks like and what area is getting clamped down on.
Caught up in your energy. It's the way you look at me.
So we have total control. It's only clamping down on the sibilance that we want to get reduced and nothing else. And that's not even to mention more advanced features like this free band. I can actually trigger the reduction using a different part of the frequency spectrum than just this band. So this is just a better, more comprehensive de-esser. Now, another plugin that multi-band compressors can completely replace are transient designers. So let's say I have this clap in this drum beat, and I want the clap to stick out more, and I want to boost the transients of it. So again, a typical transient designer, you have control over the attack and release and the gain and maybe like a different mode or two, but that's it. But back in the multi-band compressor, we can have a lot more control. I can select the region that I want the transient shaping to take place in. I'll change it to expand mode, so it's not compressing anymore, it's expanding. And I'll make sure it catches that initial transient. So we want a lot of look ahead time, a hard knee, a high ratio, and a really quick attack and release. So it sees that clap coming and just turns up that initial transient. And I want to show you how important it is to have control over the look ahead time. So if I don't have any look ahead time and it can't see the clap coming in advance, but with the same exact settings, just with more look ahead time, it can actually see the clap coming in advance and turn up that initial transient. So it really doesn't matter what multi-band compressor you have as long as it has look ahead time, because that's a huge bonus. So multi-band compressors can also do the job of a de-reverb and de-noise plugin. So let me show you how that works. So let's say we had this vocal sample.
Caught up in your energy.
And it already had reverb and delay on it, and we wanted to reduce that background noise. So what we would do is add a really wide band in here, and we would want to put it in expansion mode, and we would want the range to go up to 0 decibels, just where the normal vocal should sit, and everything below that can get turned down a good amount. So we want to add settings that are going to let most of the vocal come through, but when the reverb tail comes in, we want to reduce that. So I'm going to do a short attack, a little bit of a longer release, and then a high ratio, a hard knee, and some look ahead time.
Caught up in your energy. It's the way you look at me.
So you can see it does a great job letting the full vocal through and then just reducing that reverb tail so it's less noisy. Okay, then the next plugin that you can replace with the multiband compressor is a track spacer. So let's say we have this bass line that needs to get out of the way of these low house stabs.
Caught up in your energy. It's the way you look at me.
So this is the bass. But then we also have these low house stabs that I really want to be heard in the mix. So what I can do is back on the bass track, I can actually sidechain the bass to those house chords. And then I can make a new band just in the low mid region. So it's not affecting the sub of the bass. It's just affecting where the house chords really need to come through. And I'll put this on external mode so I can see that sidechain, see the house chords. And then I want the bass to see the chords coming and dip out of the way so it gets out of the way of those chords. So we want a quick attack, a semi-quick release, that's fine, a hard knee, some look ahead time, and a high ratio. Now those low stabs should come through a lot clearer in the full mix.
Caught up in your energy. It's the way you look at me.
So another plugin that a multiband compressor can do the job of is a volume shaping plugin. Like let's say I have a bass and I want to sidechain it to our kick, but in a way that sounds natural. That's what multiband compressors are really good at. So I can sidechain this to our kick, and then I can just create a band in the low end. So not the entire bass is getting reduced every time the kick comes in. So it still sounds natural this way, only the low end is getting reduced. And I like to gradually set this slope so the lower you go, the more it's getting reduced. And anytime you sidechain something to a kick, you want to use settings that are going to replicate what a volume shaper plugin does. So you want to see the kick coming in advance with some look ahead time. You want a hard knee and a high ratio, so you get that compression right away from the hard knee. And then you have a quick attack, a quick release, turn it on external mode so it sees the side chain, and then you dial in the threshold from there. So you're still getting that punchiness from the bass, but it's still getting out of the way of the low end of the kick so you don't have a muddy mix. If we compare that to a typical volume shape, you kind of lose the punch of the bass. As opposed to this, where the punch is still coming through nicely. And notice how this whole video, I haven't even talked about using this thing as an actual compressor or multiband compressor, which is already a useful tool in itself. So it can do the job of like 10 different plugins. There are others that I didn't even show. So if you're gonna have one plugin in your toolkit, it should be a really good multiband compressor. And it's not just like a gimmicky thing like, oh, this plugin can replace 10 other plugins. It actually makes your mixes better too, because you have more control. Also, I'm giving away 10 full scholarships to my mixing academy. So if you want to learn how to make really great professional mixes, just go to bigsycourses.com/scholarship and you take a couple minutes and fill out the form to apply. And then I'll pick 10 winners at the end. So the submissions are going to close relatively soon. So if you want the chance to get the scholarship, then go to the link in the description or just type in bigsycourses.com/scholarship and fill it out and apply. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.